For quite a few years now, I have said that I think the reason so many people love Donald Trump is because he reminds them of their abusive fathers. Hear me out. He reminds me of my parents, both of them, to one degree or another. My mother, the lying and the gaslighting and the narcissism, and the perpetual victimhood. But my stepdad, and the inciting violence. She was really good about that. My stepdad was the one who would always carry out the violence. And two, he reminds me of several of my exes. I came out of an abusive family and went straight into abusive relationships. That was all I knew. He reminds me my ex-husband and father of my children, compulsive liar, same, and abusive. The boyfriend I had after that, even worse, abusive. So not only did I grow up with that kind of violence, for the first few years, unfortunately, so did my children, until I was able to get us out of that cycle. But now that he seems to think we're stuck with him, it feels like it has shifted into more of the type of abuse that happens in romantic relationships. Like the one I noticed first was his isolationist agenda. So I decided to do a little research and see how many of the behaviors apply. And I pulled out the power and control wheel. And I'm just going to read this part because the power and control wheel makes the pattern, intent, and impact of violence visible. It was invented by the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project in Duluth, Minnesota. And this is what they have to say about the wheel that they created. The power and control wheel is a helpful tool to understand the lived experience of women who live with men who use violence. It's characterized by the pattern of actions that an individual uses to intentionally control or dominate his intimate partner. This is why the words power and control are in the center of the wheel. A perpetrator of domestic violence systematically uses threats, intimidation, and coercion to instill fear in his partner. These behaviors are the spokes of the wheel. Physical and sexual violence holds it all together. And this violence is the rim of the wheel. Now, we all know that Donald Trump is a rapist and an insurrectionist. So physical and sexual violence are his wheelhouse. So let's see what it says about isolation. It says, using isolation, controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, what she reads, where she goes, limiting her outside involvement, using jealousy to justify actions. Now, we all know he has cut us off from our allies. He has attacked them and threatened them to keep us isolated from them. He's also cut us off from our news and social media. Look at all the censorship that is happening straight from him, with stories that are not allowed to be run and posts being removed. It's very characteristic of abusers to make sure that you can only have communication with people that he approves of. And this is the same. We're only getting news or information that he approves of. Sort of the defining belief that drives isolation is that you're mine and that I own you. And if that doesn't sound like Donald Trump, I don't know what does. The next one is minimizing, denying, and blaming. And that one says making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, or saying that she caused it. It happens anytime it doesn't go the way he wants, and so he finds a way to shift the blame. Think about 2020. The thing about this one is that there's no real way to confront it because they will always up the ante. They'll use as much force as needed to force you to submit to what he wants, right? They'll yell louder, they'll hit harder. All of this is just notes from the wheel. But think about this, of how this applies to Donald Trump, specifically, not just in general. And in relationships, the most common way that women navigate this to cope with this type of abuse is to sort of take on his way of thinking so that they can know what he's going to do next. The problem with that is over time, you get sucked into it and adopt this way of thinking. So if you're constantly being told how dumb you are or how awful you are about whatever. For me, my ex-boys told me what a horrible cook I am, which is not true at all. But over time, you just start to believe the lies. Like Trumpers believe all of his lies. So the next one is using intimidation. And that one is making her afraid by using looks, actions, gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, and displaying weapons. Guns, anyone? Mostly without intimidation, they can't achieve the end goal of what they want. And it's just part of him wherever he goes. Again, these are notes that I've taken about, in general, men. But if you think very specifically about how these apply to Donald Trump, you almost wouldn't know if I was talking about him specifically or just this is what this wheel will talk about or explain in relationships. It's generated by past violence and the fear he instilled by previous behaviors to you or others. Think about what Donald Trump is doing right now to members of Congress in the House and Senate. They're intimidating them. That's what a bunch of them are saying is why they're voting along party lines even when they don't want to, because they're afraid of him and his followers and what they might do. Intimidation is what is linked to his ability to overcome any resistance. Using emotional abuse is putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, and making her feel guilty. When does he not make up names for people? Emotional abuse usually happens more often than physical abuse. And for most abusers, it's their way of getting her to understand that she is less than him. He believes he has a right to dominate and that he is superior. With constant put downs, you never do anything right. This usually takes the form of lots of name calling and making her believe that she can't survive without him, that she needs his superior thinking. That's Donald Trump's answer to everything. He's the only one that can fix it. He's the savior. Using children, making her feel guilty about the children, using the children to relay messages, using visitation to harass her, threaten her to take the children away. They used kids as tools to get revenge, just like they're doing right now with cutting the Department of Education, as well as food stamps and Medicaid, given how many children are on those two programs. Using male privilege, treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men's and women's roles. If anything drives abusive behavior, it's this. It goes to the core of his identity. He does not believe women are equal to him. And if she becomes equal to him, he feels diminished. And he won't call women by their given name. Using economic abuse, preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking her money, not letting her know about or have access to family. It comes from the idea that money is power, that if you control the money, you control the house. Because taking away any woman's ability to move freely in the world, if she has access to resources, she has access to leave. Look at what they're doing to women right now. And taking away jobs, cutting everyone's financial security. And last, using coercion and threats, making her carrying out threats to do something to hurt, threatening to leave or commit suicide, to report her to welfare, making her drop charges, making her do illegal things. They use something you value as leverage to get what they want. They use threats when coercion doesn't work. So all of that to say, it feels to me like we are in an abusive relationship. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, and share the video.